Welcome to the Wheats on Your Mind podcast. My name is Aaron Harries. Wheats on Your Mind is brought to you by the Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Our guest today is Gary Millershaski. Gary is a farmer from Lakin in west central Kansas. He currently serves as the chairman of the Kansas Wheat Commission. Gary served on the Kansas Association of Wheat Growers board from 2007 to 2017, and he became a Kansas Wheat Commissioner in 2016. He became interested in joining COG after he received a scholarship from the organization while a member of the Kansas Ag Rural Leadership class. Gary, good to have you on today.
Hey, it's good to be here, even though I'm technically inclined, but I made it.
The magic of podcasts. We kind of wanted to do a profile on you, Gary, and talk about some of your leadership roles that you've taken on, but maybe a good place to start is to tell us about your family and your farming operation.
Well, I was born and raised in Ingalls, but in order to be a professional, you got to move at least 50 miles away from home, which actually I got married to my wife, Jana, and we actually had two boys while we lived in Ingalls. But in '94, we moved to Lakin and started farming with my wife's dad on on the family farm there. We started there, and then we just progressed. And actually, when the boys got out of college, they started farming. And so it was kind of unique. We had three generations farming the same farm. It was set up. Nobody got a wage. Everybody had a percentage. Everybody made a decision. And my wife's father has passed away since, but today I still farm with my two boys, and it's the same way. Nobody gets a wage. You get a percentage, you pay a percentage, and that's how we do it.
Well, good. And so for people not familiar, Lakin is in west central Kansas in what we call the semi-arid high plains, and some years it's a lot more arid than semi-arid, and we can talk about that in a bit. But tell us about basically your crop rotation, dry land, irrigated.
Well, we do have an irrigated circle, but that is not the primary. Our bread and butter is our dry land operation. Between the boys and myself, they've got some ground they farm on their own. I've got some ground I farm on my own. We have our big farm, but typically we'll plant between 3,000 and 4,000 acres of winter wheat each year. And then we'll have about the same in a fallow program where it'll sit idle. And then we'll have about another third that will be a combination of either corn or milo that is dry land. And that's kind of our rotation, the way we move things around. And by doing it that way, the three of us, my boy Jeremy and my boy Kyler and myself, can do 95% of the work ourselves. We hire a little bit of custom, but we don't really like to do that. We prefer to do it ourselves. And by doing it that way, keeps us spread out. And when on our wheat, predominantly, it used to be all hard red winter. We like the quality and the outcome of the white wheat, so we bumped it up quite a bit. But yet here lately, with the high price of wheat compared to what it's been for years, it's kind of taken us out of the export market. The white wheat is not as good right now as the red, just because it's harder to market it across the pond where they've been paying more for it. So we may only be 40% white wheat this winter instead of 50 or 60.
Yeah, there are challenges there with the grading standards, which I know Kansas Wheat has been trying to affect some change on there. But the local grain elevators or cooperatives that you do business with, is it just the challenge of segregating that makes them shy away from white wheat?
To the east of me, yes. Locally, we had been doing real good, but we've had some bottlenecks in my current co-op, and they've done away with the premium. If you plant certified seed, you get a premium. And then they would also give about anywhere from 6 to a 12-cent premium for the actual white wheat. Those two are gone. It doesn't sound like much, but every little bit adds up. Like I say, you were talking about the weather here. So I'm roughly 40 miles from the Colorado border and 80 miles from the Oklahoma border. this area predominantly gets 16 to 18 inches of rain a year. And it's okay if it comes at ideal times. But the previous 2 years, we had been short on moisture and only getting half of our normal rainfall. And then Mother Nature said, let's get them caught up. And from the end of May to end of July, we got over 24 inches of rain, which was too much too soon. And I hate to be that farmer that complains, but then the tap got shut off, and for 60 days, I think we didn't even have a half an inch. But the all good things will pass. Anyways, Kearney County, the county most of my farm's in, we did luck out and get a rain a week ago that's going to really help plant wheat. However, along with the rain, there was a bad stretch of hail right through the middle and towards the southeast of the county that my heart goes out to everybody that lost milo fields, corn fields, windows. I'm a victim as well, but it's part of it.
Yeah, it's been a year to forget. We just did a recent podcast with meteorologist Ross Jansen from KWCH in Wichita, and we talked about that, how your area went from the highest category of drought to no drought in 60 days. It is almost like it rained every night, and then you said it shut off. So the question is that rain that started in the end of May, was it still too late for your wheat crop?
A lot of our wheat never emerged until we were on the wheat tour, and that stuff, it helped some of it, but as weird as it is, this winter wheat has to vernalize. And I've never seen so many heads that we grazed some of ours that zeroed out. And I was shocked how many heads that actually started heading out while the cows were out on the field eating what was out there. And it never vernalized. There was no grain in it. Now, this rain, we had sprayed some of it, but it was hard to do everything because of the intense rain we were getting. Some of it did make grain. Now, back to the harvest this year. Typically, we're done with wheat harvest on the 4th of July. That was the day people were starting to cut here. That wasn't normal in itself, but there was a few fields that got cut, but then the night of the 4th, the door opened up and it started raining. And like you said, it rained just about every day for the next 10 days, 2 weeks. We were running into sprouting issues. Our test weight will drop typically. Every time you get an inch of rain, your test weight's going to drop 1 pound. When we started, we had test weight at 63 pounds. When we got done, it was anywhere from 56, 55, somewhere in that neighborhood. And like I say, I didn't have any sprouting issues, but there was a lot of people that did not get to, or they didn't deliver their wheat just because it wasn't worth anything.
Yeah, it's a year where anything that could happen did happen. I think it's a great year, and I always try to remind people of the importance of crop insurance to farmers. And this year was a year, I think some farmers took crop insurance for the first time in decades because of the drought last 2 years. So you've been in leadership roles with the Association of Wheat Growers. You've gone to D.C. and advocated for crop insurance. Just why is crop insurance so important to farmers?
It's just like typical insurance. You're not going to get rich off of insurance, but when you have a catastrophe, if you have insurance, that gives you the obligation or the ability to throw the dice again. Like this year, a lot of people, the mindset, farmers get all these government payments, they get all this, and that's not really the case. And so our farm programs are based off the price of commodities. And right now, our prices are higher because of the drought. We're not having any production. Well, a high price does you no good if you have no production. So there's no subsidy as far as anything of not raising a crop because the prices are high. But yet, if you do have crop insurance and you don't have the monetary income that you're supposed to, well, at least you get whatever rate your insurance is, you'll get 70% of your normal average wage, or 65, or whatever level of coverage you got. You at least get that minus the premiums. So, like you say, the carrot is farther to see, but if you have insurance, you can at least still see the carrot out there on the end of the stick.
And those premiums are tied to the commodity price too. So the higher the price of wheat, so you've almost certainly seen your premium go up the last 2 years.
Oh, yeah. If we had $4 a bushel wheat, your premium, okay, right off the top of my head, I don't even know what it is, how much an acre, but yes, it's based off of so many, your premium is so much per thousand of revenue guarantee. And yeah, if the price of wheat is 30% higher, your premium is going to be 30% higher.
So do you have a little bit more optimism heading into planting? I know while we're recording this podcast, you wish you were out planting wheat right now, but it hasn't rained in a while, you said. But did the subsoil recharge and
in those rains in throughout the month of June or into May, June, we actually had rain enough times that it was soaking in and doing some good. Our biggest dilemma, I mean, if you could maintain all of your fallow acres and keep the weeds in check, you were doing great. The problem was we were trying to finish up corn, get the milo planted, and we were going 6 different directions. And so the first thing that you let go, of course, would be your summer fallow, because you want to take care of the plants that are actively growing. It was hard to stay caught up spraying this, planting this, fertilizing this, and then with the rain slowing you down. And then you resort to calling an airplane or a custom applicator. Well, they were so busy from everybody doing the same thing that I even went and picked up some seed wheat in the Dighton area, and I couldn't believe how it wasn't just my area that had summer fallow issues. It was all the way across the state, or at least the part of the state I was driving on. And I drove up to Russell this weekend, and the same way up to there, but on the same token they don't have the topsoil moisture that they would like to have. So not everybody is in a Garden of Eden, if you would, but at least here we've got a lot better moisture than we've had the last 2 years.
Managing fallow has become a lot trickier too, hasn't it, with the resistant weeds? What changes have you had to make to keep that fallow clean of weeds and let it soak in the moisture?
To me, it's a 4-letter word, but I hate to say the word paraquat because I don't like it. It's just one of those things but that has been a chemical that a lot of people have resorted to using. It's a dangerous chemical. There's a reason they put a skull and crossbone on it. I don't let my boys spray it. I'm the only one certified, and so I'm the only one that messes with it. I really hope technology comes around and we can figure out a way to control kochia and pigweeds better than what we can. That's our biggest problem, and it's a problem when you have a lot of moisture. Consequently, this year it's a double whammy.
Yeah, that rain that came late also made a competition with the weeds if you were going to harvest the field, not the ones that you didn't harvest. So we've talked about before with Ross Jansen again about the windstorm 2 years ago in December, and your part of the world is a tip of the hat to conservation efforts. Obviously, the drought the last 2 years has been severe, but nothing like the 30s where the wind would blow the dust, and that's because of the residue management out there in the field. But we've also set ourselves up for more fire risk, and you've had your own experience with that in the last couple of years, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough. We haven't had any bad fires here, but they've been all around us. There were some CRP that caught fire southwest of me. And then, of course, a couple years ago, we had that massive bad fires when we had the 100-mile-an-hour straight line winds. December the 15th. We had bad ones up Wichita County where
right.
There was even fatalities from it. And then, even up in Paradise Valley or up north of Hayes through that area, really bad ones up there. for every action, there's a reaction. And the best thing I can say is farmers will bounce back from anything. It's in our blood.
Yeah, he certainly will. So, well, put on your wheat commissioner hat a little bit here, and let's talk about research first. Your board, the commissioners, direct a lot of checkoff money to research, about 1.2, 1.3 million dollars every year. Why is that important? Have you seen the improvement in genetic technology? Has that shown up in the last couple of years when we've had these extreme weather conditions?
So I actually turned 60 years old this year. And I can remember cutting wheat back with my dad when I was 12, 14 years old. And I always remembered that if we had a scorching, like if the wheat wasn't quite ready, it was still in a doughy stage or hard dough. If it got 100 degrees out and that southwest wind was blowing, that wheat would just shrivel up to nothing. And it would make you it was like a dagger in the heart. You worked all season long taking care of this crop, and then it would shrivel. And that was the one thing that I know research has really taken into, is helping these varieties maintain and finish a little bit quicker at the end of the season, so we don't have that shriveling or the heat stress ability to maintain it. And I want to say that has been a very big factor in our varieties. It's amazing how in some of the cruddiest years, we still have varieties that will hang on and perform. It seems like the most important thing is if you can give that crop some submoisture or maintain submoisture and get that emerged, it will use its 9 lives and it'll produce bread in the basket.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of that is from a lot of the research we've been doing.
So you've taken on leadership roles. We mentioned that you were on the Wheat Growers Board, and now you're chair of the Kansas Wheat Commission. But you also represent Kansas wheat farmers on the U.S. Wheat Associates Board. Why is it important for you to take on those leadership roles? I know you're a busy person, and this is a big time commitment. But what's the reason you do it?
I tell you what, it is really unique. So the wheat in Kansas, if we can raise an average crop, then we export a lot of our wheat. Hasn't been the case the last year or two, but on the same token, it is amazing to go across the pond where wheat is being exported to and talk to the end users, hear their story. This is why they like U.S. wheat. This is why they like, certain classes of wheat, all of this stuff. And then two, when you're one-on-one with these end users, you build a sense of camaraderie. I actually feel it helps keep it together so that if there's wheat to be exported, they want it and they want to buy it. The other thing is it gives me more insight, and I'm better off if I raise a wheat with a end use quality that will match what the industry's looking for, instead of just planting something out of a bin that it's cheaper and let's just throw this out there and go that way. I've strived the last few years to try to plant almost all certified wheat, go that way, and I think at the end of the day, that's the best way to go.
Yeah, you've been on the U.S. Wheat Associates Board and had the opportunity, as you mentioned, to travel to see some buyers in their home countries and go to some buyers' conferences, which are also important. So what is their perception of hard red winter wheat? Is it still a perception of a high-quality, reliable wheat that they like to use?
To me, that is the basis of everything. This is the go-to wheat. When this last year we were over in Indonesia. Okay, now it escapes me where we were at. Anyways, we were pushing U.S. wheat, but due to the price constraints of Australia having a better harvest than what we did, their wheat was more economical. And Ben Barstow was one of the other farmers that was with us, that he made the comment, this bread just doesn't taste as good. I swear this is Australian wheat. And it cracked me up, but I swear that there's, how do I say that? When you have good wheat from the U.S. baked and it's warm, oh man, that's just like a food delight right there in itself. In fact, it's making me hungry right now.
It should, yeah. Well, and the markets have been a little bit out of whack with the drought we've had here in the Central Plains, and we need a big crop, don't we? I mean, to open those export markets again at a pretty critical time.
I tell you what, I know a typical farmer says, I want high prices. Well, I tell you what, I actually enjoy high yields better than I do high prices, because the last couple of harvests have been higher prices, but my yields have been lower, and that takes the fun out of it. Our operation is what it is. It's a family farm, and I don't know how to explain it without being here, but to me the best feeling in the world is going out there, greasing the combines in the morning, getting them ready to go, and as soon as what little dew there is gone, firing up them machines, running 3 or 4 combines in a field, having 1 or 2 grain carts, getting the grain from the combines, putting it in the trucks, having nephews and cousins running trucks, dumping them, and then we do it old school, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening. My wife and her mom, they bring us out like a 5-course warm meal, and we park everything. We eat a good meal. Everybody's joking, and then if there's a cloud wanting to pop up to the west in the horizon, then it's okay, go back to work, and then we'll cut till the day is done. That to me is just, that's what it's all about.
You talk about family and how that's a family affair. I know you're proud of both of your boys, but one of your sons, Kyler, and I think just great story here, following in Dad's footsteps. Kyler is currently the chair of the Kansas Association of Wheat Growers Board of Directors. And so father and son chairing both organizations, that's got to be pretty special to you.
Yeah, it's kind of unique. I know when I was on the growers board, I don't know why he was interested in it, but like he had went to a commodity classic down in San Antonio one year with Jana and me. And then I know he had went with me one time up to DC, and he really got into going to the Capitol, seeing the congressmen and senators in action up there. He really took a liking to that. And then when I got termed out in the commission and he knew that they were going to have to pick somebody else to do this district, he said he was ready for the challenge. And so he said he would do it. And so that's why he went and started then.
Yeah, and he's done a great job. COG right now, of course, is spending a lot of time working on the Farm Bill, which is struggling mightily, finding its way through Congress and D.C. We'll see if that gets done before the end of the year. Well, Gary, before we wrap things up, I'll ask you to look into your crystal ball a little bit. There are big challenges always on the high plains, but now we've got water issues, water deficiency issues in western Kansas. What are the biggest challenges for you moving forward, and what do you think the future of wheat is in western Kansas?
Where there's irrigated ground, they're at a deficit. I'm going to start with the negatives, mainly because my boys and I, we always try to finish on a positive note, because if all you do is complain, then that just keeps you in a bad mood. But yeah, the negatives, as far as I see, production costs are crazy. Parts, equipment, everything is so high. Your pencil needs to be very sharp if you're going to end up in the black. Right now, seed wheat is so hard to come by. If you want a certain variety of seed wheat, if you didn't get it spoken for before wheat harvest, you never got it. You're not going to get it. I think even there's some wheat that the producers that raised the certified seed didn't even get foundation seed this fall because there was none. That scares me. But with the resources we've got, we'll get through this. We'll make it work. But the positives is, so if the irrigated people are short on water, and or there's been a lot of corn cut for silage. Some of it got held on, so it had to go early. though that opens up acres for either triticale or wheat. I'm hoping that we're going to get some what I call semi-irrigated wheat out. And then with the submoisture, hopefully that's going to make for, I just would love to see just a perfect average crop. I don't want the home run. I just want the good feeling crops that, you know what, this is okay. This is what I like. And that way, if we can do that, it can open up. We can start shipping more wheat out the Gulf. I hope the terminal down there still works, because it sure hasn't been being used much as far as Kansas wheat going south. A combination of that. And I don't want to sell our mills in Kansas short either. I was so disappointed when I found out wheat was being shipped in, but at the end of the day, I guess if I can't supply it, they're just a businessman doing what they want. But I want to be the one on top that's providing the grain for your daily bread. I don't want it coming from another country. And so my goal right now is let's get our wheat in a timely fashion, and let's raise the good Kansas wheat crop that we're used to. That's what I want to do.
Well, that's a great way to end, and to get that crop, we better let you go plant it.
Well, I've got to change a couple of hoses, and we got to get everything calibrated. That's what we do today. Tomorrow is the D-Day where hopefully we're going to have full drills running every direction, and I'll be one crazy son of a gun.
And rain is in the forecast again.
They can only predict a day in advance, if you ask me. Everything else is just they've got a magic 8-ball that they shake, and that's what it says.
Yeah. All right. Well, Gary, thanks for joining us on the podcast. Appreciate it.
Okay. You have a good day.
Thank you to Gary Millershaski for joining us on this episode of the Wheats on Your Mind podcast, brought to you by the Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. If you have a topic you'd like us to cover or have a question for one of our guests, please email us at podcasts@kswheat.com. I'm Aaron Harries. Thanks for listening.